My name is Vex9, and I used to think I knew everything about warfare. That was before I witnessed what the humans call Tuesday. The Galactic Senate chamber buzzed with the usual political theater. Representatives from 12,000 civilizations packed the floating platforms, their various appendages waving dramatically as they debated Earth's fate. I sat in the observers section, my four eyes rolling in perfect synchronization. Another day, another species getting the boot from galactic society. The motion is clear, bellowed Senator Grokhal, his massive form casting shadows across 3 entire platforms. Earth has violated 17 peace treaties, ignored 42 trade regulations, and somehow managed to make our coffee taste worse. The crowd erupted in what I assumed was laughter, though with 12,000 different vocal cords, it sounded more like a dying space whale. Ambassador Kira Voss, Earth's lone representative, stood barely 5 feet tall among giants. Her brown hair was pulled back in what humans call a business bun, and she wore that peculiar expression they get when they're about to do something monumentally stupid. Senators, she began, her voice carrying despite its softness, I urge you to reconsider. Reconsider? Senator Elix Prime's tentacles quivered with indignation. Your species turned our diplomatic dinner into what you called a food fight. Do you have any idea how long it takes to get gravy out of crystalline scales? Kira's mouth twitched. In our defense, your chef did say the meal was to die for. We took that as a challenge. The chamber fell silent. Then someone snickered. Then everyone remembered they were supposed to be angry. Senator Morketh, whose species had perfected the art of looking perpetually constipated, slammed his energy gavel. Enough. The vote is simple. All in favor of expelling Earth from the Galactic Alliance and subsequently, all trade agreements, protection pacts, and lunch plans. 12,000 hands, claws, tentacles, and various other appendages shot upward. Well, 11,999. Kira didn't raise her hand, which I found oddly admirable and completely pointless. The motion passes. Morketh announced, Earth is hereby expelled from all galactic civilization. Your species has 48 standard hours to evacuate any humans from Alliance space. Good riddance. The chamber erupted in cheers, creating a sound that could probably be heard in the next galaxy. I watched Kira's face carefully, expecting tears, rage, or that peculiar human tendency to throw things. Instead, she smiled. Not a pleasant smile, mind you. The kind of smile that makes predators reconsider their life choices. Thank you, senators, she said, her voice cutting through the celebration like a plasma blade through butter. You've just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. Oh, please. Senator Grokhal wheezed between laughs. What are you going to do? Throw more food at us? Kira reached into her briefcase and pulled out a small device that looked suspiciously like a communication pad. Computer. Send message to Fleet Admiral Marcus Stone, Sol Defense Command. Every being in the chamber suddenly remembered how to be quiet. Message begins. Kira continued, her smile widening. Marcus, they voted us out. All of them. Execute order breakfast. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear my own circulatory system working overtime. Order breakfast? Senator Elix Prime's tentacles had gone from quivering to full seizure mode. Oh, that. Kira waved dismissively. It's just a little contingency plan we developed, you know, in case the galaxy decided it didn't want to play nice anymore. Before anyone could ask what exactly order breakfast entailed, the chamber's main viewing screen flickered to life. The image showed space near the Proxima Centauri trade hub, one of the busiest commercial centers in the galaxy. Ships from thousands of species moved in carefully orchestrated patterns, hauling cargo worth more than some planetary economies. Then the humans arrived. I've seen many things in my 3 centuries of life. I've witnessed the birth of stars, the collapse of civilizations, and Senator Blorg's attempt at interpretive dance. None of it prepared me for what happened next. The human fleet didn't announce itself with fanfare or dramatic speeches. They simply appeared, as if reality had suddenly decided it needed more humans and obligingly provided them. One moment, empty space. The next, 200 human vessels arranged in what their military calls a standard Tuesday formation. This is Fleet Admiral Stone of the Terran Defense Force. A gruff voice echoed through the chamber's speakers. As of this moment, all human trade agreements with the Galactic Alliance are null and void. We're here to collect our stuff. Ich say, your stuff? Senator Morcath managed to croak. Oh, you know. Stone's voice carried an unmistakable note of amusement. The hyperspace relays we built. The fusion reactors we installed, the defense platforms we gifted. The orbital elevators we constructed, little things like that. The viewing screen split into multiple feeds, showing human ships approaching infrastructure across dozens of star systems. Not attacking, mind you. Simply arriving, yes, with very large cargo bays and what appeared to be industrial-grade dismantling equipment. You can't just take those. Senator Grockhal's voice had risen to a pitch I didn't know his species could achieve. Those are integral to our systems. We're integral, Kira corrected cheerfully, past tense. See, when you sign a trade agreement with humans, you get all sorts of wonderful clauses, including the one that says if the agreement is terminated without cause, we reserve the right to reclaim our intellectual property. But those systems support billions of lives. Should have thought of that before you kicked us out over a food fight, Stone's voice replied, beginning extraction procedures now. What followed could only be described as the most polite act of galactic vandalism in recorded history. Human engineering teams worked with terrifying precision, carefully disconnecting and removing every piece of technology they'd contributed to Alliance infrastructure. They even left helpful notes explaining which systems might experience temporary inconvenience during the transition. The Proxima Centauri hub was the first to go dark. 3 billion beings suddenly found themselves without power, communication, or the artificial gravity that kept their feet on the ground. The emergency broadcast started almost immediately. This is Proxima control to all vessels. We're experiencing total system failure. Repeat. Total system failure. Station Gamma 7 reporting massive decompression in sectors 40 through 60. Trade Hub Zeta is just gone. The entire structure just folded in on itself. Senator Helix Prime's tentacles had gone completely rigid. This is barbaric. You're destroying centuries of progress. Actually, Kira consulted her datapad. We're being remarkably civilized about it. Our engineers are taking extra care to ensure no organic matter is harmed during extraction. Your people might be floating in space for a while, but they'll be floating safely. You're insane. We're thorough, Kira corrected. There's a difference, though I understand the confusion. The viewing screen now showed feeds from across Alliance space. Human ships had appeared at every major installation, from mining operations to research facilities. Wherever human technology had been integrated, teams were carefully extracting it like surgeons removing tumors. The Vega Manufacturing Collective is reporting total industrial shutdown, someone in the chamber announced, their voice barely a whisper. Rigel Station's defense grid just disappeared, added another. The hyperspace beacon network is... Oh, by the void, the hyperspace beacon network is gone. That last announcement hit the chamber like a meteor. The hyperspace beacon network was the backbone of galactic civilization. Without it, faster-than-light travel became a game of cosmic roulette, with odds that would make even humans think twice. You've just cut off 12,000 civilizations from each other. Senator Morcath's composure had completely evaporated, temporarily. Kira assured him. I'm sure you'll figure something out. You're all very clever beings. After all, certainly clever enough to function without those primitive humans mucking things up. Stone's voice crackled through the speakers again. Status report. Ambassador. Oh, swimmingly, Admiral, Kira replied. The senators are just now beginning to grasp the full scope of their decision. Excellent. Beginning Phase 2. Phase 2? Several beings gasped simultaneously. The viewing screen shifted to show Earth's solar system. What they saw made every being in the chamber reconsider their understanding of military logistics. The space around Earth was filled with ships, not hundreds, not thousands, tens of thousands, ships of every size and configuration, from tiny fighters to vessels that could house entire cities. Where did they all come from? Someone whispered. Oh, those. Kira's smile had evolved beyond predatory into something approaching divine retribution. Those are just the ships we keep at home, for Tuesday activities. Tuesday activities? Well, it is Tuesday somewhere in the galaxy, she explained reasonably. And we humans have this tradition of getting things done on Tuesdays, something about motivation and proper work ethics. Admiral Stone's voice returned, now carrying a tone that suggested he was enjoying himself far too much. Alliance vessels, this is your final warning. You have 30 minutes to evacuate all human-occupied space. After that, we'll assume any remaining ships are here for our Tuesday special. What's the Tuesday special? Senator Helix Prime asked, though his expression suggested he really didn't want to know. Target practice, Stone replied cheerfully. The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives began screaming at each other in 12,000 different languages, creating a symphony of panic that would have been beautiful if it weren't so terrifying. Some beings were trying to reach their home governments. Others were attempting to flee, and a few were simply sitting in stunned silence. Through it all, Kira stood calmly at her podium, occasionally checking her watch. Senators, she said, her voice somehow carrying over the pandemonium, you have 28 minutes to make a decision. Reverse your vote, or learn what Tuesday means to humanity. This is blackmail. Senator Morketh shrieked. This is Tuesday, Kira corrected. Blackmail would imply we want something from you. The viewing screen now showed Alliance ships frantically fleeing human space, their crews apparently having decided that discretion was the better part of not being turned into cosmic debris. But the damage was spreading faster than anyone could respond to. Centauri colony reporting total life support failure. The vegan trade routes are completely impassable. Someone help us. The artificial sun at Kepler Station just went out. Senator Grok Hal's massive form was shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. You're holding the entire galaxy hostage. We're not holding anyone, Kira replied patiently. You're all free to go about your business. It's just that your business now involves floating in space without power, communication, or artificial gravity. But hey, you voted for independence from human influence, right? This is what independence looks like. And 25 minutes, Admiral Stone announced helpfully. I found myself leaning forward, fascinated despite the growing certainty that I was witnessing the end of galactic civilization as we knew it. The humans weren't conquering anything. They weren't demanding tribute or territory. They were simply leaving and taking their toys with them. The problem was, those toys had become integral to everything the Alliance did. Remove them, and 12,000 civilizations suddenly found themselves back in the technological dark ages. The Andromedan medical facility is asking for immediate assistance, someone reported, their voice cracking. Their patients are dying without the human-designed life support systems. Telgos Prime's entire population is trapped underground. The human-built elevators are the only way to the surface. The food synthesizers on 100 colony worlds just stopped working. Each report hit the chamber like a physical blow. The magnitude of humanity's integration into galactic society was becoming horrifyingly clear. They hadn't just traded with other species, they'd made themselves indispensable. 20 minutes, Stone announced, his voice now carrying undertones of something that might have been pity. Senator Helix Prime's tentacles were writhing in what I recognized as his species' version of panic. We need to reconsider the vote. Too late for that, Kira said, though she didn't sound particularly upset about it. You made your decision based on a food fight. Actions have consequences, senators. Even stupid actions. But billions will die. Probably, Kira agreed. That's what happens when you make decisions based on wounded pride instead of practical considerations. Though in fairness, humans tried to warn you about this sort of thing. When? Con? Every Tuesday for the past 50 years, she replied, but you all thought it was just human eccentricity. Oh, those silly humans and their disaster preparedness drills. Oh, those amusing humans and their redundant systems. Oh, those paranoid humans and their contingency plans for everything. The chamber fell silent except for the increasingly frantic status reports streaming in from across the galaxy. 12,000 civilizations were learning what it meant to suddenly lose the technological foundation their societies had built upon. 15 minutes. Admiral Stone announced. What do you want? Senator Morketh finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. Kira tilted her head thoughtfully. Want? Oh, we don't want anything anymore, Senator. You made that very clear when you voted us out. We're just following through. There has to be something. Well, Kira mused, there is one small thing. The entire chamber held its breath. We want an apology, she said finally. An apology? A proper one. Not one of those half-hearted "we're sorry you feel that way" non-apologies. A real acknowledgement that you made a mistake. Senator Grokhal's massive form deflated slightly. That's all. Oh, heavens no, Kira laughed. That's just to start the conversation about whether we want to put your infrastructure back together. The actual negotiation comes after the apology. 10 minutes, Stone announced, and I could swear I heard anticipation in his voice. The viewing screen now showed the full scope of the crisis. Entire star systems were going dark as human-maintained fusion reactors shut down safely but permanently. Trade routes that had existed for millennia were becoming impassable as navigation beacons winked out of existence. The carefully orchestrated dance of galactic civilization was grinding to a halt. We, Senator Morketh struggled with words that had probably never been spoken in the Senate chamber before. We apologize. Me, for what? Kira asked sweetly. For voting to expel Earth from the Alliance, and for treating your species with disrespect. Morketh's expression suggested he was swallowing something particularly unpleasant, and for not appreciating the contributions humanity has made to galactic civilization. And Kira nodded approvingly. That's a good start, Admiral. Hold the clock at 7 minutes, would you? Copy that, Ambassador. All ships, maintain positions but suspend target acquisition. The relief in the chamber was palpable, though it was mixed with the growing realization that this was just the beginning of what was likely to be a very long and very expensive conversation. Now then, Kira said, settling back into her position at the podium, let's discuss terms. The next 6 hours redefined my understanding of the word negotiation. I'd always thought it involved two parties finding middle ground. What I witnessed instead was 12,000 civilizations slowly realizing they had no ground left to stand on. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Senator Blorg wheezed, his gill slits fluttering with stress. You want us to publicly admit that human cuisine is acceptable for sentient consumption? Kira consulted her datapad with the casual air of someone ordering lunch. That's item 47 on the list, yes. Right after humans are not required to wear warning labels when attending diplomatic functions, and just before Earth coffee is officially declared superior to Rigelian mud water. But our entire cultural identity is built around mocking human food, protested Senator Crix Val, whose species had written 17 operas about the horror of human sandwiches. Was built around it. Kira corrected gently. Past tense tends to be important in these situations. Meanwhile, the crisis reports continued flooding in with mechanical precision. My translator was working overtime to process the panic streaming from across the galaxy. Tau Ceti mining operations reporting complete atmospheric processor failure. Bayani. The Arcturus Medical Center's surgical robots have all powered down mid-operation. Somebody please help. The artificial gravity on Pleasure Station Alpha 7 just reversed. Admiral Stone's voice cut through the chaos with the timing of a master comedian. 6 minutes remaining. Senators. My crews are getting antsy. Apparently Tuesday is a popular day for target practice in the human fleet. Senator Morketh had developed what I suspected was a permanent twitch. These demands are unreasonable. You want us to declare humans the most surprisingly competent species in official records. Item 73. Kira nodded. Though personally, I prefer item 91. Which one is that? Someone asked with the tone of a being approaching their own execution. The one where you acknowledge that human chaotic unpredictability is actually strategic flexibility and should be respected rather than feared. A collective groan echoed through the chamber. The sound reminded me of the time I accidentally stepped on a Venusian singing slug, except this lasted much longer and involved considerably more suffering. This is extortion. Senator Elix Prime's tentacles had achieved a shade of purple I didn't know existed in nature. This is Tuesday. Admiral Stone replied before Kira could speak. And frankly, Senators, you're getting the gentle version. Wait until you see what we do on Wednesdays. The viewing screen flickered to show a new development that made my blood run cold. Human ships were approaching the galactic capital itself, not with weapons ready, but with something far more terrifying, construction equipment. What are they doing? Senator Grockhall whispered. Oh, that. Kira glanced at the screen as if noticing it for the first time. The capital station runs on human-designed life support systems. We're just making some modifications. What kind of modifications? The kind that will make it very difficult to breathe in about 5 minutes if we don't reach an agreement. The panic that swept through the chamber was so intense I could taste it. Which, given that I don't actually have taste buds, was deeply unsettling. 4 minutes, Stone announced cheerfully. Wait. Senator Morcath jumped to his feet so quickly he knocked over 3 smaller representatives. We accept the terms. All of them? Kira asked, raising an eyebrow. Yes. All of them. Humans are surprisingly competent. Your food is acceptable. Your coffee is superior. Your chaotic unpredictability is strategic flexibility. Just please don't turn off our air. Kira smiled. And for the first time since this whole ordeal began, it looked genuinely pleased rather than predatory. Admiral, you can stand down the atmospheric teams. Copy that. All units return to standard Tuesday positions. The relief in the chamber was so palpable I worried someone might drown in it, but Kira wasn't finished. Of course, she continued conversationally. Accepting the terms is just the first step. We still need to discuss implementation. Implementation? The word came out as a collective whimper. Well, yes, you can't just say humans are surprisingly competent and leave it at that. There needs to be follow-through. For instance, Item 112 states that Earth will receive a formal seat on the Galactic Security Council. We don't have a Galactic Security Council, Senator Blorg pointed out weakly. You do now. Item 113 establishes it, with Earth holding the permanent position of voice of reason during galactic crises. I watched 12,000 beings slowly realize that they had just negotiated themselves into a corner so tight they would need human engineering to get out of it. The irony was so thick you could have built a space station with it. Furthermore, Kira continued, Earth will be resuming its infrastructure support contracts, but under new terms. Specifically, triple the previous compensation, premium emergency response fees, and what we like to call the stupid decision surcharge. How much is the stupid decision surcharge? Senator Elix Prime asked with the resignation of someone already knowing they wouldn't like the answer. Depends on how stupid the decision is. Today's decision, for example, would rate about 50,000 standard credits per affected system. The mathematical implications hit the chamber like a runaway freight hauler. 50,000 credits times the thousands of systems currently going dark equaled a number so large it had probably never been spoken aloud in galactic history. That's more money than exists in the galactic economy. Someone gasped. Was more than existed. Kira corrected. Funny how economic realities change when your entire civilization depends on someone else's technology. But how are we supposed to pay that? Oh, we've thought of that too. Item 147 establishes the Galactic Improvement Fund, with contributions based on each species' previous level of anti-human sentiment. Senator Grockhall made a sound like a deflating balloon. Previous level of... You kept records. We keep records of everything, Senator. For instance, did you know that your species has made 237 officially logged complaints about human behavior in the past year alone? That seems oddly specific. It is specific. We're very good at specific. Item 148 establishes the Human Behavior Monitoring Office, which will review all future complaints for validity before they reach the Senate floor. The chamber had gone quiet except for the soft sounds of beings reconsidering every life choice that had led them to this moment. I found myself genuinely impressed by the thoroughness of human revenge. They weren't just winning, they were rewriting the rules of the game entirely. "There is one more thing," Kira said, and somehow everyone managed to look even more worried. "What now?" Keth croaked. "The food fight incident that started all this, we're making it an annual tradition. The Galactic Food Fight Festival, with mandatory participation from all Alliance members. You want us to throw food at each other? Officially?" Item 162. It builds character and prevents the kind of prideful behavior that leads to, well, today's like today. Admiral Stone's voice crackled through the speakers one final time. "All systems restored, Ambassador. The galaxy is back online, and just like that, it was over." The crisis reports stopped. The emergency broadcasts fell silent. Across 12,000 star systems, lights flickered back on, air recycling systems hummed to life, and artificial gravity returned to its proper orientation. The viewing screen showed human engineering teams working with the same terrifying efficiency they had displayed during the dismantling process, except now they were putting everything back together, better than before. If the preliminary reports were accurate, how? Senator Blorg asked, staring at the screen in bewilderment. "How did you fix everything so quickly?" "We never actually broke anything," Kira explained. "We just disconnected it temporarily. Human engineering rule number 1. Always build in an easy way to put things back together." "You mean the entire crisis, all the panic, was completely avoidable if you hadn't voted to kick us out over a food fight?" Kira finished. "Yes, that's rather the point." The silence that followed was different from the panicked quiet of earlier. This was the silence of 12,000 civilizations collectively realizing they had been outmaneuvered by a species they had considered chaotically unpredictable. "So," Senator Keth said finally, "what happens now?" Kira gathered her papers with the satisfied air of someone who had just concluded the most successful business meeting in galactic history. "Now you go back to your worlds and explain to your constituents why their taxes are about to go up to pay for infrastructure they took for granted. And the humans? We go back to doing what we've always done, building things, fixing things, and preparing for the next time someone decides we're more trouble than we're worth." "There won't be a next time," Senator Elix Prime said quickly. "We've learned our lesson." Kira paused at the chamber's exit and looked back with that same predatory smile that had started this whole mess. "Senator, you haven't even seen our Wednesday special yet." As the chamber doors closed behind her, I sat in the observers section and tried to process what I had witnessed. In the span of a single day, the humans had transformed from galactic outcasts to the most indispensable species in Alliance space. They had done it without firing a shot, conquering a planet, or even raising their voices. They had simply demonstrated what Tuesday meant to humanity, the day when things get done, problems get solved, and entire civilizations learn the difference between chaos and competence. The other observers began filing out, their conversations a mixture of awe, terror, and grudging respect. I remained seated, watching the cleanup crews restore the chamber to its normal configuration. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new crises, new opportunities for species to demonstrate their capacity for both wisdom and stupidity. But one thing had changed forever. No one would ever again mistake human unpredictability for incompetence. As I finally stood to leave, I caught sight of a small sign that had been placed near the chamber's main entrance. It read, in 12,000 different languages, "Today is Tuesday. Please plan accordingly." Below that, in smaller text, "Wednesday schedules available upon request." I decided I didn't want to know what Wednesday looked like for humans. Some mysteries were better left unsolved. As I sat, walking toward the exit, I reflected on the day's events. The Galactic Senate had voted against Earth, thinking they were ridding themselves of a troublesome species. Instead, they had learned the most important lesson in galactic politics. Never pick a fight with someone who built the stadium you're fighting in. The humans hadn't conquered the galaxy. They had simply reminded everyone who was keeping the lights on. And that, I realized, was far more terrifying than any conventional invasion could ever be.